year was 110 AD, and Emperor Wudi of the Han Dynasty paid a visit to Mount SONGSHAN. What was his purpose? Later in history, Chinese emperors regularly visited the country's sacred mountains to offer sacrifices to heaven. Most of them went to Mount Taishan, but not Wu Zetian, the only empress to rule China in her own right. Why did she choose to visit Mount SONGSHAN instead? Find the answer in episode 3 of Mount SONGSHAN.
In the year 110, a man named Liu Che visited Mount SONGSHAN. History knows him better as Emperor Wu Di of the Han Dynasty. According to the Shiji, the records of a grand historian, a group of alchemists had told Emperor Wu Di about a mountain of immortality called Banglai, located in the sea. They also said that Mount Taishan, which had been a part of the old state of Qi, was a home of the gods. They insisted that they could intervene with the gods on the emperor's behalf, and they thus urged him to offer sacrifices on Mount Taishan. The emperor was more or less persuaded. However, he didn't entirely trust the alchemists, so instead of Mount Taishan, he chose to offer sacrifices on Mount SONGSHAN. And so, in the early spring of the year 110, Emperor Wu Di and his party set out to climb Mount SONGSHAN. As they approached a peak to the east of the Qi Mu stone, the emperor heard a cry, "Long live your majesty." When he asked his guides if the voices were theirs, they told him no. His servants also denied saying anything. The emperor concluded that the voices must have belonged to the gods and that they were offering him their services. Delighted, he had the court historian record the event. He then ordered the expansion of the temple on Mount Taishan and created a new county called Zhonggao at the foot of Mount SONGSHAN. Its 300 household population would be exempt from paying taxes in exchange for offering regular sacrifices to the god Zhongyue. The "Long live your majesty" Emperor Wu Di had heard was probably nothing more than the sighing of the wind in the trees. But all the same, from that time on, "Long live your majesty" became the greeting used by officials whenever they met an emperor. One other significant event took place during that visit by Emperor Wu Di to Mount SONGSHAN. Near the main entrance to the temple that would later become Songyang Academy, he saw a towering cypress tree. Impressed, he bestowed on it a title, First General. And yet, inside the temple courtyard, the emperor saw another cypress tree, this one several times bigger than the one outside. Realizing he had made a mistake but unwilling to admit to it, he designated the larger tree Second General. But in the temple's inner court, the emperor saw an even bigger cypress. He had little choice but to name it Third General. Before long, third general had died, and the second general, also apparently unhappy with its name, had developed a hole in its trunk. However, first general, the smallest of the three trees, flourished. In a sign of his contrition at the mistake he had made, the emperor ordered that no more trees on Mount SONGSHAN be felled. Today, there are some 700 ancient cypresses on the mountain. 40 of them are within the grounds of Zhongyue Temple. They're believed to have been planted on the orders of Emperor Wu Di himself. And if this is true, then they are nearly 2,000 years old. Of course, no tangible evidence remains of Emperor Wu Di's religious activities on Mount SONGSHAN. However, a number of buildings dating from around that time can still be seen. It was common practice in the Han Dynasty to erect watchtowers in pairs in front of city gates, palaces, ancestral temples, and tombs. Among the oldest surviving examples of Han Dynasty watchtowers are the three pairs standing in front of Taishi, Shaoshi, and Qimu temples on Mount SONGSHAN.
古代这个阙呢，它其实原来是孤零零的一个建筑，是吧？人可以到上面去，可以观风景，是吧？另外呢，这个阙呢，古代公布一些法律啊、号令啊，一些这官府的一些文告，往往挂在这个地方，所以这个阙又叫相位，是吧？位就是巍峨的意思啊，挂这个东西很巍峨的东西，人都可以到上面去看远处看风景，也可以到这儿去观看官府的一些公告，是吧？这样一种，逐渐它沿袭到汉代呢，就变成一种专有的建筑形式了。
Qimu Temple, with its two watchtowers, stands at the foot of Mount SONGSHAN's Wanshui Peak. The watchtowers, as well as the nearby Qimu Stone, are believed to have a connection with the legend of Yu the Great fighting the floods. When Emperor Wu Di of Han saw the Qimu Stone, he decided that a temple should be built there. The temple was later destroyed, but its stone watchtowers survived. On the watchtowers, inscriptions referring to Yu the Great fighting the floods can still be seen.
祈母庙，但是祈母庙在汉代不叫祈母庙。汉代因为我们知道古代人讲避讳，是吧？汉景帝的名字叫刘启，他不可能用这个，所以他写的就写这个开母庙，啊，就像我们开封，开封其实在原来叫启封，因为也是汉代要避汉景帝的讳。后来就改名叫开封了，所以当时叫开母庙，啊，开母庙，那就是开母庙庙前面呢那个建筑呢有阙，就叫其实原来叫开母阙，是吧？但是后来呢，那人们不是汉代了，人们不予避讳了，因为它原来是纪念夏启的，所以就叫祈母阙。
Another pair of watchtowers is found at Shaoshi Temple, 6 kilometers northwest of the city of Dangfeng, at the foot of Mount Shaoshi. On the upper parts of the Shaoshi watchtowers there are a series of illustrations. They depict horse races, elephant taming, and a sort of football match. In a hunting scene, a man on horseback is turning around to fire an arrow. Behind him is another man on horseback in pursuit of a deer. In another image, a man is leading a horse with one hand, while in the other hand he holds a pole which he uses to control an elephant. The third pair of watchtowers stand 500 meters to the south of Zhongyue Temple on Mount Taishu. Known as the Taishu watchtowers, the eastern one of the two is 3.92 meters tall and the western one 4 centimeters higher. According to an inscription, the towers were built on the orders of Lu Chang, magistrate of Yangchang County, in the year 118. The inscriptions consist of 27 lines of characters conveying information on why and how the towers were built. In the year 690, Wu Zetian declared herself ruler of a new dynasty, Zhou, with its capital at Luoyang. Under Wu Zetian's reign as empress, China enjoyed a period of political stability and economic development. Wu Zetian eventually decided to draw attention to her achievements by offering sacrifices to heaven. However, this was not the first time Wu Zetian had performed such a ceremony. A quarter of a century earlier, in the first lunar month of the year 666, she had accompanied her husband, Emperor Gaozong of Tang, on a tour of Mount Taishan, and while they were there, they offered sacrifices to heaven. But now, Wu Zetian was ruler of China, and it was she who presided over the ceremony. History records that 7 emperors in China's history performed ceremonies to offer sacrifices to heaven. They were Qin Shi Huang, Emperor Wu Di of Han, Emperor Guang Wu of Han, Emperor Gaozong of Tang, Wu Zetian, Emperor Xuanzong of Tang, and Emperor Zhenzong of Song. 6 of the 7 held the ceremonies on Mount Taishan. So, why did Wu Zetian choose Mount SONGSHAN? There were many reasons. First, Mount SONGSHAN was known as the Central Mountain, or Zhongyue. Ever since a survey had been carried out during the reign of King Wu of Zhou, 1,000 years BC, people had believed that Mount SONGSHAN stood at the center of the earth. Wu Zetian was convinced that the tall mountain formed a connection between earth and heaven. The purpose of offering sacrifices to heaven was, of course, to communicate with heaven, and Wu Zetian believed that on this peak connecting earth and heaven, she could make better representation to the gods. Another reason was that Wu Zetian believed herself to be the successor to the Zhou dynasty, so she felt the need to follow the example of her ancestors by worshipping on Mount SONGSHAN. Yet another reason was the proximity of Wu Zetian's capital, Luoyang, to Mount SONGSHAN. She was 73 years old when she decided to perform the sacrificial ceremony, and travelling to Mount SONGSHAN would be much less onerous than travelling to the more distant Mount Taishan. But there was another, even more pressing reason for her choice of Mount SONGSHAN. When she had accompanied her husband, Emperor Gaozong, to offer sacrifices on Mount Taishan, she had joined in the supplication to heaven for the Tang dynasty to last forever. It would have seemed inappropriate to return to the same mountain to ask for the same protection for another dynasty, the Zhou. And so, on the first day of the 12th lunar month of the year 696, Wu Zetian set out from Luoyang for Mount Songshan. There, on the 11th of the month, she presided over the ceremony to offer sacrifices to heaven. Mount Songshan is one of the most famous mountains in China. It is unusual in that it actually consists of two mountains, Mount Taishi and Mount Shaoshi. These two mountains are separated by a flat stretch of land. During the Tang and Song dynasties, because Mount Songshan was close to the cities of Luoyang and Kaifeng, it became a tourist destination frequented by emperors, officials, writers and poets. The visit by Wu Zetian to the mountain served to further enhance its fame. The ceremony lasted 20 days. To mark the event, Wu Zetian changed her reign title. She also renamed two of the counties at the foot of Mount Songshan. Songyang became Dengfeng County, and Yangjiang became Gaochang, or Great Success County. Wu Zetian was China's first empress. As such, she must have worried about gaining popular support. Earning the favour of the gods must have seemed all the more important.
Wu Zetian 这一次封禅可以说是开创了中国封禅上的许多的先河。第一个，开创了中国女性封禅的先河。就是说，过去的中国的封禅都是由男性独霸这个封禅坛的。那么武则天封禅了以后，又打破了这个男性独霸封禅坛的这个局面。第二个，改变了中国历史上传统的只封泰山而不封其他岳的一个局面。就是说，把中国历史上的封禅由过去的只封泰山，变为封中岳和泰山两岳，这是第二个。第三个，女皇武则天这次封禅已经70多岁了，开创了这个当时年龄最大的帝王一个封禅。
At the ceremony, Wu Zetian created a number of new female deities. By doing so, she hoped to encourage her subjects to accept the idea of being ruled by a woman. She also bestowed the title Empress Yu Jing on the mother of Qi, the first king of the Xia dynasty and son of Yu the Great. It was in fact believed that Qi was born on Mount Songshan. It was also believed that his mother was turned into a stone after giving birth to him. The title Madame Jingjue was given to the woman who raised Qi. In the course of the next 3 years, Wu Zetian demonstrated her skill as a ruler by solving border disputes, appointing able officials, and even choosing her heir. But she still had one very serious problem to address. In February 699, the 76-year-old empress became seriously ill. Her physicians prescribed medicines that improved her condition somewhat, but the illness was a reminder to her of her mortality. Wu Zetian learned about a Taoist elixir in the form of pills that could guarantee immortality. She sent her ministers to ask for some. A Taoist by the name of Hu Chao gave Wu Zetian some of his pills, and as if by magic, she was cured. Consequently, Wu Zetian changed her reign title to Jiao Shi, meaning far-sighted. It comes from a phrase in the Dao De Jing, the most important of the classics of Taoism. According to the Dao De Jing, when you possess the nation's heart, your influence will long endure, deeply rooted and firmly established. This is the approach of far-sightedness and longevity. Evidently, Wu Zetian hoped that by adopting the new reign title, she would lengthen her rule and her life. However, in July 699, Wu Zetian fell ill again. It was said that she suffered from nightmares in which an empress and concubine she had put to death visited her bedroom in the moonlight, their hair dishevelled and covered in blood. No Taoist pills could prevent these visitations.
这时候胡超这时候也就着急了，于是呢，胡超作为一个道士，他想起来道教的一种治病的法子，就是三关手术。道教创立了之后啊，就说张鲁那个时候创立的道教，就说你有病的话，制作三个竹简，把你的病的原因、祈求如何你的这个愿望写在这个金简上，投给3个官，第一个是天官，第2个是地官，第3个是水官。他们3官是干什么的？天官赐福，地官消灾，水官解厄。
In May of the year 700, Hu Chao climbed Junji Peak, the main peak of Mount SONGSHAN. There, he prayed to heaven and the earth before casting a gold slip onto the mountainside. The gold slip was for dispelling evil. Over 1,000 years later, it was found by Chu Shihuai, and it's now part of the collection of Henan Provincial Museum. The sun shines through the peaks. The clouds travel through the valleys. At banquets, we enjoy ourselves. At dusk, dust sweeps across the sky. This poem was written by none other than Wu Zetian during a banquet on Mount SONGSHAN. It conveys a sense of the mountain's timeless majesty. The majesty of a great mountain that has been a witness to the rise and fall of dynasties on China's central plains.
"1,500 years ago, an Indian monk took up residence in a cave on Mount SONGSHAN. His name was Bodhidharma. And after 9 years of meditation, he emerged to found a new school of Buddhism, Chan, otherwise known as Zen. Later, under the Tang Dynasty, Buddhism was suppressed, yet Mount SONGSHAN continued to play a central role in religion. So, what was its appeal to Taoists? Please stay tuned for part 4 of Mount SONGSHAN.